Hi, my name is Tanya Candy. I am just here today as my very first time ever going live on YouTube. My expectations are pretty low. I kind of doubt there's going to be anybody who chimes in with me. But before I go any further in this thing that I'm trying to build on YouTube and on social media and my business in general, I just wanted to put together this story um, because I want to be completely transparent with anybody who comes on to this video. Anybody who maybe is trying to Google me, they maybe want to be a potential client and they want to know who I am, what I represent, and what they might expect if they were to team up with me. So I'm 100% open book. You want to know, just ask if this isn't already going to be way too much information. I know things can get long and I can tend to be really chatty. So I'll get on with things. Um, like I say, my name is Tanya Candy. I am an RN. I've been a nurse for probably close to 20 years. And before that, I was a hairdresser. My story is always going to be intertwined with my faith. So I'll probably make a different video that is kind of a statement of faith because the field that I'm working within, restorative medicine, restorative health, but also dealing with frequencies, it can kind of be one of those areas that concerns like Christians where they don't know how things fit in and how they feel about things. So I am going to do a different kind of faith-centered video about that. But if you're going to be one of my followers or if you're going to be one of my clients, you're going to hear me talk a lot about my faith. And um, I'll use the term usually Yeshua or Lord or Creator. I am Christian, but I have a Sabbath orientation. So, enough about that. That's going to be a whole separate video. This video, I just wanted to tell my story, my health story. And it's how I came to be where I'm at right now. Still, absolutely a work in progress. My health story is not complete by any means. Oh gosh, if I was going to start at the start, this would be a super, super long story. My soapbox, I guess, and my niche. We always wonder as health coaches or as marketers or whatever. What's your niche? Who are the clients that you're looking for? My niche kind of really is people who are a lot like me. I think because of what I've walked through. So as a nurse, I have never been particularly fond of drugs or medications. I worked in a psychosocial area more. I worked in corrections a lot. So I never wanted to be an ICU nurse or an ER nurse that was pushing, fancy life-saving medications. I'm always really more that one-on-one, that communicator. And so even though I was a nurse myself, I was not fond of medications. And then working in corrections all those years, you just see really all that firsthand experience of how medications can kind of ruin people's lives and addictions and different things like that. So it's hard to even to piece together to tell a story that's gonna make sense. I can remember way back when I was even a young mom in my 20s or even a high schooler, and I would go to the chiropractor, and, that was kinda my first experience with some muscle testing. He didn't really tell me what he was doing or give me a very good explanation of it, and one of my chiropractors way back then would say, "Oh, your digestion is terrible. Like you've got some digestion issues, but he never really said like how to fix it or like what to do about it. And it never really sunk in. I just kind of kept living life and had young kids. When I was young, in my 20s, my two children were just 10 months apart. So I had the whole stress, in your 20s and your 30s, and you're building a family and you're building a career. And then later, my late 20s, I got divorced and moved, went back to school. I raised 2 kids by myself going to college, um, went from a self-employed hairdresser to being in nursing school. So, obviously, stress in my world. At the time, you just live life. It wasn't I didn't find my life to be unmanageable, and I was making successful decisions, finished nursing school, was working as a nurse, found a great job, was very rewarding. I was very involved in church, and I had awesome kids. They've always been very, very well behaved, very studious athletes. So all of that was good. Even though it was stressful, it was good. And through those times, my main complaint health wise was always back pain. Even as a high schooler, I was a cheerleader and I always kind of contributed my back pain to the sport. Or I never really thought I could find the right mattress. Like, I had a lot of pain. I took a lot of ibuprofen and pain relievers, just over the counter stuff throughout my life, trying to kind of catch up. Where does all this story go? So all these things that root causes, it's the chicken or the egg. You can't necessarily pick out one or two. They all kind of work together. Um, Heartburn was a huge, huge issue for me. I was Yeah, I don't even really know. I know I was working at the correction center when, I got really sick at one time, and to get to work, I had to go up a flight of stairs, and, one weekend, I was on call and went up and down the flight of stairs quite a few times, and it was struggling. I was like, "Wow, I am out of breath," like, and I've always been a little overweight. I've lost and gained that same 30 pounds multiple times throughout my life. So there too, that contributes to the stress on your body. And it's not good for your health. And of course, I took strange things throughout those times, over the counter, um, whatever, appetite suppressants and that kind of thing, which are never good for you. But that time when I knew I was really struggling, physically, like, tired in a really wrong way. And as a nurse, I was ignoring things. I was definitely ignoring some things. A few weeks prior to that, I had had a couple of bowel movements that had blood in them. And if that's something that you've ever smelled or experienced, it's pretty undistinguishable, or it, like, very distinct. Like, you know what it is. And so I had had that happen, and then nothing really crazy happened, so I just kept working, I just kept going. And then that weekend going up the stairs, I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have to submit to some common sense and go get this checked out." And so that Monday, I went into the clinic, and my hemoglobin was 7 something, I don't remember what, but that's the point where you kinda need a blood transfusion. That's when things are getting pretty bad. So, I got to be, that patient. I got the NG tube down my nose, and, I've had given them as a nurse and never wanted to experience it. It was as bad as I figured it would be. So my doctor sent me out, for tests, got the EGD and the colonoscopy, and they just found gastritis, which just means itis, means inflammation in the stomach. It wasn't anything, it wasn't H. pylori bacteria or whatever. It was just chronic. It was chronic blood loss. So they put me on a proton pump inhibitor. It was protonics. So that was 40 milligrams. So that's a pretty strong proton pump inhibitor. The goal of that would be to suppress your stomach acid. Um, very, very common deduction in the medical field. Very common. And back then, I had a really, really bad Diet Coke habit. When I was at work, I just was sipping on Diet Coke all the time. And I knew that it was bad for me. I did. So that was kind of a wake up call for me. I did kind of quit the Diet Coke. And that, I mean, that was about all I did. And then I was probably on the proton pump inhibitor for around, I would guess, 15 years. Somewhere along the line, I didn't really dig into it then. I didn't really, like, oh, it's bleaching your bones or all the side effects. That wasn't my motivation to get off of it. But somewhere along the line, I was able to get myself weaned off of it. I still had a lot of heartburn, and so I would use, like, Gaviscon kinda worked for me, um, things like that. I did as well, I gotta kind of back up or throw in, it was probably my kids were just little, so I'm gonna guess I was in my mid-20s, somewhere around in there. I remember having a gallbladder attack, and I was driving in my car. I had eaten grape nuts that morning, and, um, I got just this horrendous pain in my back, and then kind of in the visceral, like down low in my gut, and it just felt like somebody was just coming through my back like with a knife. And I remember having to pull over on the side of the road because it was so that pain was so significant that I couldn't drive through it. And that scared me enough that I did go in and get like an EGD, I think it was at that time. No, no, it was the barium, like, where you have to take the barium and hold that burp and you get x-rays. I didn't have my gallbladder checked. And then there too, was kind of on that wait and see program, how it is, well, you kind of got something going on, but if you wait and it gets worse, then we'll cut something out, right? So that was definitely gallbladder issues. And I knew, like, through all this time, my whole adult life, really, I've had that Russian roulette with things, like, say those big train coffees that have got some dairy in them and some sugar in them, and, like, about, mm, maybe a third of the time, I would have a terrible, like, colon blowout reaction to them, but sometimes it was alright. Um, Grease, really bothered me, so if you I knew, like, if you're gonna go I just stayed away from fried food. Fried fruit foods, of course, was, that instant bathroom colon cleanse. So I do still actually have my gallbladder, amazingly enough, I still have my gallbladder. Um, but now that I know what I know, and this is just gonna be my story, so it's not gonna be like slides with education or whatever. Those are videos yet to make. That's kind of not my strong suit. You can see I'm not high tech. I don't know how to do all this fancy video stuff yet. I do want to learn. I do want to find some resources. So that'll be a video that I make at a later date. That liver, gallbladder, stomach acid connection, and how it it's all like this, and how we like my main soapbox, my main story is we cannot take stomach acid away. These proton pump inhibitors are wrecking people, just plain wrecking people. Okay, so I'm in my late 20s, early 30s. We already know my gallbladder is on its last leg. It's been on its last leg forever. But what I didn't know is that if your gallbladder is having issues, the liver is having issues. If your liver is having issues, your hormones are going to have issues. All these things are tied together. And I just want to go out, I just want to tell you that on paper, my liver looks fine. My enzymes have never been elevated, they've never been out of whack. So by the time we get to that place where our liver enzymes are showing up on test scores as problematic, oh, the problem is huge. The problem is huge, huge. Um, so tied into all this fits some of the estrogen issues. Again, I'm just going to really surfacely talk about this in the sense of my body and my story. The explanations, stories, slides, studies, those will be videos at a different date. Um, with the stomach acid being taken away, and more than likely, I probably always had estrogen dominance even before the stomach acid, just the way that I'm built. Um, those estrogen issues were probably always a thing. But you combine all these problems then with candida, sugar imbalance, and overgrowth in your gut, like bad things just really happen. The hormone issues, where you get into your later 30s and you get into your 40s and your cycle really starts to change and you start to really, really heavy bleed and you have breast tenderness and your moods and your PMS and all these things are just crazy. Or if you're not there yet, if you're younger and you're having PCOS or you're having hormone issues or you're having some difficulty conceiving, like all those things are connected. That it is all connected, even way connected to your stomach acid. um Fight or flight, our bodies, when we're stressed, our body naturally clenches down and inhibits, lowers production of stomach acid. So um and your body doesn't know the difference if it's mental stress, if it's emotional stress, or where these stressors are coming from. So really, now that knowing what I know, proton pump inhibitors, really, I mean, oh. And then, so sorry, back to my story. All the education was supposed to stay out of this, but it's hard not to educate because the story doesn't make any sense without it. um Most of my adult life, I was super anemic, so I did that thing where you eat ice all day, every day. I would buy ice by the bag, and now I don't remember, like, really how long it would last me, but it was such an addiction, and it was physical, but it was the anemia. If you've ever heard of that before, it's got some fancy name where because you're anemic, you wanna chew ice, and I mean, I was like I needed ice. It was priority to me to get to the grocery store to buy ice, and I was picky about it. There was certain ice that I liked. So that too, that went away. I don't do that anymore. That went away when I got my iron back up. So throughout this time, throughout these problems, that lack of stomach acid led to just really bad digestion issues. The gallbladder issue led to bad digestion issues. So I've had, that IBS chronically for a long, long time. Uh, then, oh, I'm just stubborn, and most you will definitely see these things that I just mentioned in my medical record. You will see back pain. I've had an MRI. I had herniated discs in my back and in my neck. You'll see that in my medical record. Um, but I was getting a lot of fibromyalgia symptoms. There were times when I even questioned, like, if I had MS symptoms. That you won't see any of that in my medical record because I knew that if I started complaining about it, the answer to it was just gonna be like gabapentin or muscle relaxers or, you know, this the only toolbox that my medical community could offer me were drugs, and I'm super stubborn about that, like, no, I'm not taking any medications like that. Nothing that's gonna kind of alter my mood or alter my personality or like just like no, I wouldn't do it. And I was taking a lot of ibuprofen probably for years and years on end, probably 800 milligrams twice a day, which is there too. Super bad for your stomach, super bad for your kidneys, super bad for your liver. And that's just kind of how I lived my life with a miserable, miserable amount of pain. Um, and that those fibromyalgia points. And like especially right here were really bad and right above my sacrum were really bad, but my muscles, just everything just was achy all the time. And I was getting it's probably about 5 years ago now. um I like to ride horse a lot, and I was getting to the point where just nothing was fun anymore. Like everything hurt too much. My moods, I was crabby. uh, just because I didn't sleep well. My hormones were all whacked. My digestion, my weight. I was just a miserable, in a miserable state, in a miserable place. And I had gotten to the place where I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to eat humble pie and go to the doctor and get a surgeon, get my discs fixed or get on some kind of medication or something because like I that was kind of it. I was at the point where I didn't necessarily think I had a choice anymore. And so that was where I really started doing some research on alternative stuff. And part a big part of my business is PEMF energy. So it's a pulsed electromagnetic field, and I call it like an energy massage. And there too, that's a whole nother conversation. But I invested in that machine and started treating myself, and then like kind of selfishly to get some of my investment back, I started sharing the service and taking clients to work on them as well. And things totally started to change for me, and a lot of it because my mind changed as well. Like I had found this tool, which led me to more education, which led me to a different perspective, which kind of like my business now is called Awakened Wellness. And I I called it that because literally this journey of mine awakened me to a whole different perspective. Um, I have always valued chiropractors through my whole life. I've seen a chiropractor, and some of them are a little bit more wordy, and a little bit more interactive. Some of them just do their job and go on. Well, what really changed my perspective was training that I did with the Wellness Way Academy, and that they're chiropractors with they test. I test, we use blood tests, we do all sorts of things, but we want to look at the body as systems, right? So, this became a huge part of my story. I had tools, and I found out through testing, not through the medical, through my perspective, through the functional perspective, that I had Hashimoto's thyroid issues, which comes from an old virus, comes from Epstein-Barr. And so that, kind of gave me a lot of insight on some of that fibromyalgia, some of that autoimmune symptoms and whatnot that I was having. I found information about gluten really affecting that. thing being a huge trigger for that thyroid and those kind of issues. So I had my food allergies tested. I went for a couple of years and I really, really obeyed that food allergy thing. I did a lot of good there. I had a huge herbal plan, huge herbal supplement routine that was helping my body, that was bringing my body back to life. Was I perfect? Like at that point, no. But like mentally, um, I was at the place where I felt like I had some control over what was going on with me again. I felt like I was getting my power back, and that alone does so much for your body, for your physical healing. When when you're not just down and out and somewhat depressed or feel like you have no choice or you're just a slave to pain. Migraine headaches too, that that was something that has really had already gotten better for me. But like the first migraine headache I remember having was in like the second grade. And I got some whoppers where I would be disorientated, and I got that thing where you think you know what you're saying, but you don't know what you're saying, like where your speech is all jumbled up. And I mean, I still don't know what that was all about. If that even back then could have been a weird food allergy or just a stress thing, who knows? And I had, as a young child, a pretty significant heat stroke too. And like things like that kind of stay with you, they kind of set you back a little bit. So those were my main health issues. So just to pull it back together for you, GI is totally where it started, with digestion problems, with liver congestion. So way, way back when, and suppressing that um, stomach acid was really so counterproductive. Um, and kind of fast forward to where I'm at now. Things have still, I still kept my gallbladder. I did have a partial hysterectomy. And there too, I was just a nurse. I was like, sure, I'm done with it. I don't need these parts. Yeah, if they're not serving me, let's just, you know, oh, the things, that I just thought were normal. They're so not normal. Common, but so not normal. The things that we've come to accept as normal, and just yeah, I was there. I was that young mom who I didn't question anything. I just did what the doctors told me. My kids were vaccinated, and praise the Lord that nothing bad happened to them in my stupidity. So none of this came natural to me either. The awakening, the mind blowing um, unprogramming, of my nurse brain. It's a big deal, and it is all tied up in my own health story. So where I'm at today, I was doing the herbs, I was doing the no food allergies, I was making great progress. I pretty much had the heartburn conquered. You know, black pepper was a huge trigger for me, and no black pepper. Just being smart, it really, really had that heartburn under control. I would go times where I would have like what you might call normal bowel movements, but really not like I should. Not for somebody who had been doing all this stuff. And then um so now I'm really gonna go, off somewhere where you might think that I've gone off the deep end. Um, in my work, in my walk, and different patients that I had worked with, cancer patients, I had come to know about fenbendazole, which is a dog dewormer. And a lot of cancer patients have some amazing, amazing results. And whether it, was kind of the good Lord talking to me about what I needed, I decided that every full moon, for just prophylactic reasons, that I was going to do that fenbendazole. So, I mean, I still think drugs have their place, right? They're not all. It's not black and white. It's not all good. It's not all bad. Um, Medicine totally can and does and will save lives. But anyway, so if for about 7 months, I had been doing that fenbendazole around the full moon, and the full moon, I will end up having plenty of videos about why we do things around the cycle of the full moon. Um, why I was kind of pre-treating myself for unknown cancer was because that is how messed up my colon was. And I had done a stool test, and there is a marker in there called beta glucuronidase, and mine was sky high, and that has to do a lot with your estrogens. um, but it's also considered a precancerous marker. And then, in the full disclosure, way too much information, I had things like go on in my colon, in my digestion. I would get, it wasn't often, maybe a few times a year, some really weird, crazy pains in my real low colon to rectal area, where I would be like, well, if that happens again, I'm probably gonna have to go get it checked out. But knowing what getting something checked out entitled, eh, I just, of course, I just ignored it. I never would go get it checked out. Anyway, it was scary. There was some scary stuff going on in there for sure. So there, with the not knowing, doing that fenbendazole, it took about, on the 7 month cycle, that I started really having some weird bowel movements, weird stuff come out of me. I did, and there too, it's hard to understand if you don't know the other things behind it. But with that beta glucuronidase, there is a supplement that we take to kind of try to help clear some of that. And so I had been doing that too, probably for almost a year, and there too, getting very strange, old, dark, yucky stuff out of my colon. And then with that 7 months on the fenbendazole, I had just really started passing some weird stuff that I didn't know what it was. And then it was just right about the same time that I came into the knowledge and started using Cellcore products. And if you found my YouTube channel, that's probably why, is because of the Cellcore. And so with the Cellcore, just the education, other people who were very much brighter and more experienced with me about what parasites look like in your stool and identifying them, with that education. And then I've come to know that it was parasites that I was passing. So the Cellcore products by themselves are very anti-parasitic, but I had really put these things into motion with that fenbendazole. So right now, as I'm making this video, I have been gall, it's getting close to a year, I suppose. Really, I hadn't thought about it like that, because the 7 months, and then I stopped at fenbendazole when I started the Cellcore for 4 months, and now I'm gonna add that fenbendazole back in. So it's really been like a year that I've been using anti-parasitic protocol. And like the amount of parasites that I have seen come out of my body, or still coming out of my body, is astounding. It really is. And there too, like I said, is gonna be kind of a different it's gonna be a different video, that spiritual aspect of it. Um, but spiritually speaking, like, I can just feel the realm of death leaving my body. And like I say, I don't have any medical diagnosis. I don't have anything to back it up. I am not saying I'm a cancer survivor because I never went and got checked for cancer. But I will say that cancer is a parasite. Cancer is a yeast. Cancer is evil. And um, the spirit, the realm of death is leaving my body. I'll just leave it at that. Uh, my balls are still goofy. They're still not they're not right. And right now I am doing some like I've got a program that is a 3-month like hormone reset with your HPA axis with your hypothalamus and your thyroid and your adrenals. So I am implementing that with some bioidentical hormones. I'm doing some stuff there too. But where I'm at right now at 50, I just turned 50 this month. I feel better than I even remember feeling when I was in my late 20s. My energy, my like I'm exercising. It's just it's miraculous. It is absolutely miraculous. So we always want to look at root causes, and I still go back to, what was my root cause? How in the world did I get so full of parasites? And these liver flukes like are oh man, it's terrible. And I do have candida overgrowth issues as well that I'm working on. But the root cause of all of this is having no stomach acid. Like, if I ever had a soapbox, it would be about these proton pump inhibitors. You know, I don't know when it was that they went over the counter where you no longer needed a prescription for them. I mean, it's just so common, so overused. The Lord created us to need stomach acid. And there too, I'm not going to go into a big science thing, just common sense. Just common sense. That's where we're staying at right here, right now, is common sense. And if somebody's got an ulcer or something, there is a virus or a bacteria or a parasite at fault there. It's not because there's too much stomach acid. No, the Lord is just smarter than that, okay? So we have to have that stomach acid in order to kill this stuff. Like, I'm not going to live in fear of going out with my horses or having my dogs in my house or, you know, drinking tap water because I might get a parasite. I'm not going to live in fear like that because if I've got stomach acid, you live in balance. Good bacteria, bad bacteria. Obviously, our terrain is our compost pile. If you've watched any of my videos, you'll hear me talk about that all the time. Their compost pile, the good microbes, the bad microbes, we need them all. But when we take away that stomach acid in the world of good and evil, bad always wins naturally. The good guy has to fight. The good guy has to fight. And it's no different inside your terrain. If you take away that stomach acid, you your body is just out of balance from one end to the other. And if your digestion doesn't work, there's nothing in you will work like well or sustainably or to a place where your body can rejuvenate and restore like it needs to every day. So, yes, of course, like what you eat matters. Like when I do my faith video, I'll talk more about energy and life, but what you eat matters. You can't, even just even GMO foods, when you take the life, you take the seed out of it, you take the frequency out, you take the energy out. Our bodies need life, they need frequency. If we're just going to eat processed food and stuff that scientists changed, it matters. It matters to your body. And without making this video 4 hours long, you know it matters. If you're listening to me, you know that it matters. Chemicals matter. What you put on your skin matters. And it matters less to some people, perhaps, maybe because their genes are better, maybe because they don't have as many stressors. Like for me, my jawbreaker at the root of that was that lack of stomach acid. And then those layers, all these problems layered up on top of it, where it wrecked my immune system. Um, Autoimmune disease, the medical community will say that your body's attacking itself. My community will say, no, 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 your body was not made to make mistakes. Your body was not made to attack itself. When we have reactions like that going on in our body's trying desperately to protect itself from something, from a trigger. That autoimmune reaction, my body's not attacking my thyroid. That's hogwash. That's complete bullshit, if I may say. Um, Autoimmune thyroid, that means that there's a virus that decided to live in the fatty tissue in my thyroid, and my body, my immune system is trying to address that. And then, yeah, some stuff happens that isn't ideal, but it's not because my body's attacking itself. It's that virus. And then I could go further to say that virus doesn't stand a chance in my body if my immune system, my digestive, was good in the first place. The Epstein-Barr virus wouldn't be a problem. If there wasn't a parasitic host, the Epstein-Barr virus wouldn't be a problem. So we have to think about all those things. It all matters. Our immune system and our gut, it all matters. And then when we have parasites, they steal from us. They steal your nutrition. When your gut is like hamburger and leaky, you don't get your B vitamins. Your brain fog gets nasty. Um, it just nothing works right. Nothing works right. So, if you're listening and you've got autoimmune disease, I want you to think about that completely different. Even like say high blood pressure or plaque, like in your veins. Doctors want to think that cholesterol is the culprit. It's not. It's not. Or if you've got plaque, that's your body. It didn't make a mistake. Your body is trying to protect the artery walls because they're inflamed. So your body's just like a scab on the outside of your body. So your immune system puts down that layer of protection because there's inflammation, because there's an irritation, just like if you scratch the outside of your body. Um, so, the root cause, what's causing the inflammation? More than likely, something you're eating or something you're putting on your body. There's something that it doesn't like. So, this root cause business is so important, but it's hard for people because that means I have to take responsibility for what I'm doing, for what I'm exposing my body to. So that all has become my story, my healing path, my educating people, my getting on my soapbox and living different, living better, doing things different. And if you got through this story and you want my help, I would love, love, love to help you. I'm still in a place where I'm not so busy that I don't take one on one clients. I do still take one on one clients. If you're watching this 5 years from now on replay, that might not be true, but I am actively seeking affiliates. I've got a great bunch of girls who went through the same training that I did that will see clients as well. So if not me, I have a resource for you. I will have so I am also prophesying into my life that if you're watching this on replay 5 years from now, there's a chance I might be too busy to see you one on one. But right now, it's just little old humble me here trying to do my best to help people like me walk out a different perspective. It is hard. It's a lot to take on. It's a lot, and in our world is so the programming. It's so hard. It's so hard to find truth. But if you're here and you're listening, your heart knows the truth. Your heart knows what's right and what's wrong. Your heart knows what food still has life in it and what food doesn't. And that'll be a whole nother video too of the things that I've discovered about my body and thinking of it like a toddler, and having some respect for it instead of just saying, whatever, I'm going to do whatever I want. But I'm not very good with closure at wrapping up these videos, but that is my story. And little things matter. Everything that we do matters. What we think, what we say, what we put in our mouth, what comes out of our mouth. It all matters. So, I don't mind if you like my video, if you share my video, even though it is really personal. If you know somebody that you think hearing my story might help, I'd love it if you share with them. I do have a link in my bio that you can get a hold of me in multiple different ways. Whether you comment here, my email address for my business is awakenedwellness406@gmail.com. You're welcome to email me. You can go to my website. It's awakenedwellnessllc.com, and there should be a way to contact me on there. I do virtual appointments as well as in person. In person, I can do some, fun hands-on stuff, but virtually, we can do testing virtually. Um, you name it. That's one thing the last stressful 2 years taught everybody is that there's a lot that we can do virtually that we never even dreamed of trying to do. So that's it. I'm going to wind this up. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I'd love to chat with you in the future.